In October 1988, a beaver dropped from a transport crate onto the bank of the Biesbosch National Park in the southern Netherlands and walked straight into the nearest willow. It did not explore. It did not look around. It bit into the base of the trunk and began gnawing, systematic, unhurried, rotating slowly around the stem as wood chips flew into the mud around its feet. Within minutes, the willow came down. The beaver moved to the next tree. No one told it what to do. It had been born in a German river, raised in captivity for transport, and released into a Dutch delta it had never seen. No knowledge of the Biesbosch, no instruction, no reward, no reason to start felling trees within minutes of arriving. The cut it left was clean and angled, the stump a perfect pencil point, the same shape left by beavers in every river they have ever inhabited, across the whole of Eurasia for 10,000 years. The 42 beavers released into the Biesbosch between 1988 and 1991 were the first in the Netherlands in 162 years. What they did to the delta over the decades that followed, and what the 7,000 animals descended from them eventually did to the dykes, the flood barriers, and the water management infrastructure of the most flood-threatened country in Europe was something no one in the release program had modeled, or even considered. The Netherlands is not a natural country. Roughly a third of it sits below sea level. Another third floods regularly without active management. Since the 12th century, the Dutch have been diking, draining, pumping, and reclaiming land from water, a continuous engineering project that has reshaped every river, every delta, and every wetland in the country. The Rhine and the Meuse do not flow freely in the Netherlands. They are managed, channeled, and controlled along nearly every kilometer of their length. The Biesbosch was one of the few places where something resembling a natural delta system still functioned. But even there, the hydrology had been modified, the tidal range reduced, and the species composition narrowed by a century of coppice management and water control. Willows grew in dense monocultures across the islands. The water moved through channels dug and maintained by human hands. The ecosystem functioned, but it functioned within tight constraints. What was missing was a large mammal that had shaped this kind of landscape for 10,000 years. A species that builds structures, digs channels, fells trees, and creates pools and wetlands that no engineering department ever plans for. The beaver had been absent from Dutch rivers since 1826, long enough for an entire generation of ecologists to have no reference point for what a delta with beavers in it actually looked like. The Biesbosch was not dead in the way a mined landscape or a drained desert is dead. It was functioning, but it was functioning without its engineer. And that gap, it turned out, was bigger than anyone had measured. The Dutch had not been ignoring the delta. Rijkswaterstaat, the government water authority that manages the Netherlands' entire water infrastructure, had been actively managing the Biesbosch for decades. Coppice rotations kept the willow forest productive. Water levels were controlled through sluice systems. Fish passages were engineered into weirs. Nature managers cleared invasive species and maintained the channel network by hand. None of it produced what a beaver produces. The problem with human management of a river delta is the same problem that Brandenburg had with its coal mine and Kazakhstan had with its steppe. You can only do one thing at a time, in one place, at one depth, in one season. A team of workers clearing willow coppice creates disturbance in the patches they clear and nowhere else. A beaver working the same territory operates continuously, randomly, at multiple depths, in every season, and produces outcomes that no management plan specified and no contractor invoiced for. Specifically, no human management program was creating the irregular wetland pools, the woody debris accumulations in stream channels, the varied vegetation structure, or the nutrient-rich sediment deposits that characterize a functioning beaver delta. These features require an animal that dams, fells, digs, and dies in place, leaving its structures in the water to decompose over years into habitat. A management team leaves nothing behind when it goes home. By the mid-1980s, delta ecologists had produced enough comparative data from rivers inhabited by beavers in Poland and Germany to make the case. The Biesbosch was missing something that could not be replaced with a budget line and a work crew. That was the argument that put 42 beavers on a truck to the Netherlands in 1988. 42 animals, 4 years, 1 national park. The beavers were sourced from established populations in Germany, Poland, and the Alsace region of France, Eurasian beavers, the same species that had lived in Dutch rivers until the 19th century. They were released in annual cohorts between 1988 and 1991, all into the Biesbosch, all radio-tagged for monitoring. The release program was run jointly by the Institute for Forestry and Nature Research and Staatsbosbeheer, the Dutch State Forestry Service. The first 3 years were hard. Mortality was high. The released animals, disoriented by translocation, crossed open water at night and were struck by boats. Some dispersed out of the park entirely and were lost to monitoring. Breeding success in the first cohorts was close to zero. The population sat at 47 animals 2 years after the final release, barely above the number introduced. A population viability analysis published in 1996 concluded that the isolated Biesbosch population had an 80% chance of extinction within 100 years unless breeding productivity improved. It improved. By the mid-1990s, the surviving animals had established territories, found partners, and begun producing kits at a rate that shifted the demographic model. By 2004, 16 years after the first release, there were 115 beavers in 28 territories across the Biesbosch, and animals were beginning to spread along the Rhine and Meuse river systems beyond the park boundary. What was happening inside the park to the mud and sticks and water had by then been running for over a decade, and it was not what anyone expected. 4 things happen when beavers work a river delta. Each one does something the management team could not. The first is dam construction. Beavers build across minor channels and tributaries, raising the water table behind the dam and flooding areas that had been dry. In the Biesbosch, where the tidal system had been modified and channels had been deepened for navigation, beaver dams re-wetted islands that had been draining for decades. The wet patches attracted breeding waders, amphibians, and fish species that had not been recorded in those locations for years. The second is tree felling. A beaver pair consumes and uses several hundred trees per year, primarily willows. The stumps resprout, creating dense multi-stemmed coppice. The felled trunks land in the water as large woody debris, the single most important structural feature of a functioning river system and the one most systematically removed by river engineering. Fish, invertebrates, and aquatic mammals depend on submerged wood. Beavers put it back continuously, for free, in quantities no management program has ever matched. The third is canal digging. Beavers dig channels from water to food sources on land, paths that persist and expand over years. In the Biesbosch, beaver canals created new connections between isolated water bodies, allowing fish passage and dispersal of aquatic invertebrates between pools that had been hydrologically separated. The canals also slow water flow, increasing sediment deposition and building soil in areas that were eroding. The fourth is lodge construction. A beaver lodge is a mound of mud and sticks packed around an underwater entrance. It insulates, it provides habitat for other species in its structure, and when abandoned, it becomes a raised feature in the wetland where different plant communities establish. The delta was acquiring new topography that no engineer had planned. 4 mechanisms. 42 animals to start. No management budget required after release. By 2004, the Biesbosch monitoring data showed measurable changes across multiple ecological indicators. Vegetation structure had diversified. Fish species richness in beaver-modified pools was higher than in unmodified channels. Invertebrate communities in large woody debris accumulations matched those of reference rivers in Germany, where beaver populations had been established for decades. The population kept growing. By 2019, an estimated 3,500 beavers were distributed across the Netherlands. By 2025, that figure had reached between 6,000 and 7,000. Then the phone calls started. Waterboard managers began reporting something that had not appeared in the original release documentation. Beavers burrow, not just into riverbanks to make lodges. They dig long horizontal tunnels into dykes, into flood embankments, into the earthen structures that keep the North Sea out of Amsterdam and Rotterdam. The tunnels can reach 17 meters in length, large enough for a person to crawl through. They run below the waterline, invisible to inspection from the surface. I keep thinking about that image. A 17-meter tunnel running horizontally through a dike filled with water, invisible from above. The Netherlands has 43 types of dike and 9 major flood defense systems. A significant fraction of those structures now sit in beaver territory. Jelmer Krom of the Rivierenland Water Board put it directly. Some of the tunnels they have found would, under the right flood conditions, allow a dike to fail. This is what no one planned for in 1988. Not because the beavers behaved unexpectedly. Beavers have always burrowed. The release program was designed by ecologists. The dike management program was run by engineers. For a long time, those two professional worlds did not talk to each other about the same animal. The Netherlands is not the only country facing this. As Eurasian beaver populations recover across Europe, in Germany, France, Belgium, Poland, and the Czech Republic, water authorities are encountering the same conflict at different scales. An animal that is ecologically invaluable is also, in engineered landscapes, structurally inconvenient. The burrowing that creates habitat complexity in natural riverbanks creates structural weakness in artificial flood embankments. Both things are true at the same time, and conserving one requires managing the other. The Dutch response has been adaptive. Beaver management teams now operate alongside ecological monitoring programs. Dike inspections have been modified to detect burrow activity. In some cases, wire mesh has been installed at the base of critical flood structures to prevent burrowing. Population management, careful and documented and operating within legal frameworks, keeps numbers below the threshold where structural risk becomes acute. What makes the Netherlands case genuinely interesting is what it says about the limits of planning. The ecologists who designed the 1988 release program understood beavers. The engineers who built the dike system understood water. Neither fully understood what happens when 7,000 animals, equipped with engineering instincts, operate inside an engineered system designed without accounting for them. I find that tension genuinely interesting rather than alarming. The beaver is not doing anything wrong. The dike was there first, and the beaver sees earth and water and does what beavers do. The problem is the gap between two human knowledge systems that existed in parallel for 35 years before they were forced to talk to each other by an animal that did not know it was supposed to pick a side. In 2025, the Delta's Water Research Institute published an updated assessment of beaver impact on Dutch flood infrastructure. Burrowing activity had been detected in or adjacent to dike sections across multiple water board districts. None had failed. All were under active monitoring. The assessment concluded that the risk was manageable, with surveillance, with adaptive management, and with the political will to treat a rewilding success as a complex system rather than an unqualified good. The number that stays with me is not the 23 dike sections, it is the 7,000 beavers. From 42 animals released into one national park in 1988, most of whom nearly died and barely bred, to 7,000 animals in rivers across the entire country, including rivers their species had not touched in 162 years. They did what they were built to do: building dams, felling trees, digging canals, constructing lodges, re-wetting wetlands, and, incidentally, tunneling through the infrastructure of a country that spent 800 years learning how to stay dry. Dead Delta. 42 animals, mud and sticks. 36 years later, 7,000 beavers, and a very expensive monitoring program. If this one surprised you, subscribe. We release one new documentary every week, and every story we cover is something nobody else in this niche has found yet. But the Netherlands is not the only place where a rewilding program produced something nobody predicted. In our next video, we go to Australia. There, 26 Tasmanian devils, extinct on the mainland for 3,000 years, were released into a dead forest. What they did to the feral cats and to the native wildlife in 2 years was something no model had predicted.